Let's get acquainted with the tools needed to tie flies. There are many types of tools that you can buy, but in order to tie basic flies, all you really need is the set that you're looking at right here. So let's go through these one by one. The first thing you'll want to consider is a vise, something to hold the hook while you perform the functions of tying. There are many different types of vices out on the market. Some are spring-loaded, such as this one, that has a lever that you depress, which opens and closes the jaws of the vise. Others have nuts and bolts or cams that you would screw and adjust in order to adjust the jaws of the vise. Some vices will rotate. Some vices, such as this one, will clamp to the side of a table, while others will come with a base that rests on top of the table that the vise then sits down into. Regardless of the type of vise or the function or the price of the vise, they all perform the same basic function, and that is to, again, hold the hook while you perform the actions of tying. Now let's go through this row up here. This is a bobbin, and it's used to hold your thread. This is a bobbin threader, and it's used to load thread into the bobbin. Now you can buy these. This particular one is one that I actually made, and it's basically just a piece of fishing line that I folded in half and then secured the ends with some electrical tape to form a handle. Now I'd like to take a minute or two and show you how to load a bobbin and how to set a bobbin, because that's something that you're going to do over and over as you tie flies. So I have a spool of thread here, and we're going to load this thread into the bobbin. We're going to take our spool of thread and we're going to line the holes of the spool. Align the holes of the spool with the knobs on the end of the bobbin. And you're going to clip it right in place like that. Now you're going to take your bobbin threader, and you're going to take the loop of the bobbin threader and slide it down the shank of the bobbin and push it through until it comes out the other side. Then you take the end of your thread and you slip it through that loop, pull the bobbin threader out, and it pulls the thread with it up through the shank of the bobbin, and your bobbin is now loaded. Now when we talk about setting a bobbin, we're basically talking about the amount of tension that the bobbin has when you pull, the amount of tension on the thread when you pull the bobbin. So the proper way to hold the bobbin is by the angles of the arms here, with your thumb and first finger or thumb and second finger. And the proper amount of tension should be set such that when you pull that bobbin, the thread should run fairly smoothly off of the spool. There'll be a little bit of tension, but the thread should escape fairly easily from the spool, and when you let go of the bobbin, it should hang without drifting down to the table. It should hang right in place, supported by the tension of the thread. Now, if when you let go of your bobbin, if it slides down to the table, then the tension is too loose. Conversely, if when you go to run thread out of the bobbin, if it's very hard to get that thread out of there and there's a lot of tension, the bobbin is set too tight and you could snap your thread off. Now the way to adjust the tension or to set the bobbin is by bending the arms of the bobbin. If the bobbin is too loose, then your nubs are not pinching the spool of thread enough. So you'll want to bend these arms in a little so that these nubs rest a little closer and exert a little more tension on the spool of thread. And conversely, if your tension is set too tight, you want to bend these arms back a little bit to release that grip. So that's a bobbin, and how to load a bobbin and how to set a bobbin. You also want a pair of scissors, and I would actually recommend having two sets of scissors, even for beginners, because you're going to find that fly tying material basically falls into one of two categories. You're going to have your soft, fine material, such as your hackle barbs and things of that nature, that are going to cut very easily. And then you're going to have your coarse material, such as wires and tinsels and things, which are going to be more difficult to cut. And you're going to want to have a pair of scissors for each type of material, Because what will happen if you only have one pair of scissors and you cut a lot of tinsel or wire with those scissors, when you need to cut your fine material, your blades are going to be too dull to cut that material effectively. So you're definitely going to want to have a pair of scissors, and as I said, 2 pair of scissors is actually better. This is a bodkin, and it's basically a needle in a handle. And there are many different uses for a bodkin, and as you tie flies you'll find that this little gadget has more and more utility for you. This is a whip finisher, and it's used to help you apply the final knot on the end of the fly, the whip finish fly, when you're all done tying the fly and you need to knot your thread before clipping it off of the hook. I'm going to cover how to do a whip finish in a separate video, because it does take a little practice, it takes a little getting used to, and it's really something that a little more time needs to be devoted to the explanation of it. So I'm not going to show a whip finish knot here. You can refer to that video for further instruction. These right here are hackle pliers. And the way these work is that you take this ring and you're going to slip that ring through your middle finger, and then you're going to hold the arms of the pliers with your first finger and your thumb, and when you squeeze it's going to open and close the jaws of the pliers. And these are handy little items to use to grasp material that is maybe too small or not long enough for you to effectively get your fingers around it, because it rests too close to the hook or whatnot. Basically you open the jaws of the pliers, you grab your material with it, and then you can use this ring to help you wrap your material or perform whatever operation you need to perform. So it gives you just a little bit of extra length on your material. Very handy little gadget to have. You're also going to want a pair of tweezers. There's a lot of utility for tweezers. You have a lot of little objects, beads, things like that your tweezers can help you pick up and grab and things like that. They can be used to help hold something next to a hook that you can then wrap your thread around. A lot of different uses for tweezers. It's good to have a pair of them. This set here is a hair stacker and a comb. And this is used to align the tips of hair, which you're going to want to do with certain flies to give a better appearance and a better action to the fly. So I'm going to take a minute and demonstrate how that works as well, because it's easier to show you how that works than not, and you'll see where the comb comes in as well. So I'm going to get my scissors, and I have a patch of red deer hair here. And we're going to come in here and we're going to clip off a small bunch of the deer hair. Now, if you look at this hair, the tips are, they're not really aligned. They're kind of wild. They're kind of frayed out. We're going to we're going to try to line those up and stack those. So what you do is you clip off your bunch of hair, and if you look closely, I don't know if the camera can pick it up. I guess you can see it here. Any hair like this that you cut off of the skin is going to have what's called underfur near the butts of the hair. All animals have that underfur. It's used to keep them warm and whatnot. But you're going to want to clear that underfur out of there. Otherwise, your hair is not going to stack properly. So that's where the comb comes in. You take your comb and you basically comb through the butt ends of your hair, and you can see the clump of underfur that gets pulled out. So you're going to want to comb out that underfur. Then you take your stack and you take your hair stacker and you slide it tip first into the tube of the stacker. Make sure you get all of them in there. And they slide down. Now you take this little device and you tap it several times. And then when you pull the bottom of the stacker off and slide the material out, you'll see that these hair tips are now lined up fairly evenly. So that's what a hair stacker is. That's how it functions. And you'll see as we tie flies in subsequent videos that utilize hair, elk hair, in the elk hair caddis for instance, you'll see the application of the hair stacker again. But that's basically how the hair stacker is going to work. So let me filter these back up here. And then the last tool that you're going to want to have, I lump it in with the tools, is a good jar of head cement. And a couple of toothpicks. I use my toothpicks as applicators for the head cement. You dip the toothpick in the head cement, touch it to, say, your whip finish knot, and it's a nice easy way to apply your glue. So that's just a brief overview of the tools that you need to tie flies.